Greetings, guys. So I haven't made a video like this before on my YouTube channel, because mainly I didn't want to put political stuff on my YouTube channel. Not because I'm not political. I'm quite vocal about my political opinions on Facebook and in particular on Twitter, but because I wanted this channel primarily to be about the things that I'm passionate about: video games and anime and Star Wars and all that kind of awesome nerdy stuff. But I increasingly realised that I'm very, very passionate about politics, and I've become more and more passionate over the last 4 or 5 years. And now seems like the perfect time to go and make a retrospective video looking at that and looking at the political landscape right as it is now at the end of 2020, literally about a week or so after the US elections. How seeing Donald Trump fail to get a second term and how Joe Biden winning against him will change the state of play going forward. Now, I want to start by making it very clear that Joe Biden he's a centralist. He is not a radical progressive. He's certainly not in the same ballpark as Bernie Sanders. So in terms of radical shift in America, in terms of significant change, yeah, I mean, compared to Trump, he's going to get America back to where it was before 4 years of Trump happened. So in that respect, I suppose there's a lot of change. But he didn't win by a significant margin. You know, it was a close election. A lot more people voted for Trump than many expected. And that means that what Trump has done, the way he's riled up that base within the Republican Party, that's not going to disappear when Biden gets inaugurated in January. It's going to sit there for a while, and it needs to be confronted. It needs to be pushed back. But the reason that Biden fared better than Hillary Clinton was even more establishment than Biden. She represents everything the establishment was. And at the time, in 2016, Trump won because he wasn't the establishment. Of course, 4 years later, as the sitting president, he is the establishment. And people have begun to realise that, wait, this guy is horrendously awful on pretty much every policy point. And, you know, even if Joe Biden only delivers on 3 things: tackling racial inequality, improving healthcare for all, and the environment, those 3 things, if he just does those 3 things, that's 3 steps further towards a more progressive and better future. And they are 3 essential things, really, because aside from the fact that they were campaign promises, if he doesn't do them, America isn't going to get any better from where it is now. Sorry, I got a bit of a cold going down. No, it's not Corona, before any of you ask. But Biden was helped in getting there by the progressives. I saw I forget the exact number, but the percentage uptake of new voters within the constituencies of Representative Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar was huge. They were out there. They were engaging with people. They were saying, "Hey, if you didn't vote the last election, can I ask why? Can I get you to vote?" They were out there making the argument for engagement. And that's the thing. And this particular election, Trump lost despite getting more votes than he did in 2016. He was the second biggest amount of voter intake for a presidential candidate, second only to the guy who he lost to. So that's crazy. You know, it's positive because it shows that voter turnout has been significantly up. But where do we go from here? How do we kind of replicate that elsewhere? How do we convince people that actually the parties, like the Democrats, need to embrace the left? They need to engage with them, rather than maligning us to the sidelines and saying, oh no, we don't want your socialist rubbish, and just instantly kind of taking our votes and running with it. Actually engage with it. Actually bring people into the party and the direction of the party. Because the squad, as it is in America, I think it's the two representatives I mentioned before. I forget who the other two were, but there were 4 of them. There are now 8 of them. They've managed to help get progressive policies into the general discussion within the Democratic Party. And in the UK, we need to do the same with Labour. Keir Starmer may not be the leader that we want for Labour. He certainly, compared to Jeremy Corbyn, he's a centralist. He's nowhere near as left. I mean, I guess in the eyes of the Conservative Party and in Boris Johnson's eyes, he's a lefty. But we'll gloss over that. The point is, the actual left of the party needs to be taken seriously. We need to stop telling ourselves that the lesser of two evils is not valid. Because we end up with a situation like we've got now in the UK, like they had in America with Trump, where you get a fundamentally inept, useless, and corrupt leader. And that's what we've got in Boris Johnson. So the American election that they've just had should serve as inspiration for us that actually this argument of lesser of two evils is totally valid. That Keir Starmer may not be the candidate we want, but by every conceivable metric, he is still better than the incumbent. And that's the point that I was making at the start when I said about Biden being a centralist. He's still better than Trump. Even though he will still only offer the key issue changes on a few things, and they won't be radical changes, it's still some change. It's still some modicum of improvement. And right now, when we're seeing right-wing rhetoric reappear, we have no choice. The argument of all politicians are the same doesn't hold any weight anymore. Yes, there are good representatives who listen to those that voted for them and who actually work within their communities, and there are those that don't. And that's true of any and all parties anywhere in the world. But we have to acknowledge that there are some parties and some politicians that are objectively, on every single metric, worse. And when confronted between a candidate who we're not particularly keen on and we don't feel will pursue the policies we want versus an incompetent, arrogant buffoon, is that even really a debate? Because to my mind, that should be the easiest decision ever. I know people have accused me before of saying, oh, well, you're telling us that if we don't know who to vote, we should vote for Labour. My argument is look, if you have a clear idea of who you want to vote for, go out and do that. If you don't, then at least know who you don't want in. Because I guarantee that with the exception of 1 or 2 of my friends who are Conservative voters, everybody I know said that they didn't want Boris Johnson. And we still got Boris Johnson because people didn't turn out and vote. Because people said, that Corbyn's got some good ideas, but he's just not for me. Maybe they believed the bullshit that the press was spreading, because heck, we've seen a lot of that in the last 4 or 5 years on both sides of the Atlantic. Maybe they didn't like the policy points. But it's still, to my mind, when you've got 2 candidates, even if it's the narrowest difference, if one is just slightly better than the other, slightly is still better than nothing. slightly is still better than worse than. And we have to constantly accept that politics isn't about what we want in the here and now, and what we want for the future. It's about realistically looking and saying, what are the choices in front of us? Which of these two paths in the long run will bring us closer to the end goal that we're looking for? And that's the thing, is if the Democrats get in, there's actually something on in America at the moment, which could actually see the end of the Electoral College. And if that does, it could potentially make it a lot harder for the Republicans to get into office again. And that should be the end goal. We need to make parties with their old-fashioned backwards thinking, like the Republicans in America and the Conservative Party here in the UK. We need to take every opportunity we can to stop them from getting in. We need to get in parties that will acknowledge that trans rights are a thing, that we still have issues of racism and inequality, that our healthcare cannot continue to be underfunded, privately sourced, and out of the means of working class families. And we have to make sure that our education standards improve if we want to be taken seriously on the world stage, if we want to be seen as somewhere that people want to come and study. We have to make those things happen. Now, I've probably talked for nearly 12 minutes now, so I'll probably put a pin in it here. But I think I'm probably going to make more political videos. And the only way to know for certain if that's something that is well received is if you guys give it a thumb up, maybe leave a comment below. Let's get a conversation going. Let's actually engage with the politics. Because whether we like it or not, it's affecting us. So sticking our head in the sand, it doesn't seem like a sensible option to me.